Okay, Giant team members, in this video lecture, we're going to look at the stage models of change. In the last video lecture, we talked about the checklist models for change. And the stage models is a little more, robust, I guess, a little more encompassing. It recognizes that change comes out usually in stages, and a checklist may be a little too simplistic of a model or a method for going through change. So the stage really sees change unfolding over time from the initiation of the change through implementation and then to conclusion, and each of those steps has stages associated with that kind of play out over time. The most common, we've talked about it already, the most widely known stage model of change is Kurt Lewin's, which was a 1951 classic three-stage model where he talks about unfreezing, moving, and then refreezing. So unfreezing is where you change the attitudes of the people, of the employees, by making them feel uncomfortable about the way things are because they could be improved. And so establish the motive to change. You want to get people uncomfortable with or unsatisfied with the way things currently are being done, and let them know that there's a better way. There could be a better way to doing this, which is going to make all of our lives easier. After you do this unfreezing, after you get the buy-in through the change of the goal or the visualization, the vision, or the whatever, we implement the change to move to the desired new state. So we unfreeze, and then once those patterns are unfrozen, we move to make the change. And then the last step is to refreeze, which is to institutionalize those behaviors to prevent people from drifting back to previous ways of doing things. Very, very simple and straightforward. And of course, a lot of checklists and a lot of stage models have really expanded upon that. But Kurt Lewin's is the Kurt Lewin's model is the seminal work in change management, really talking about what needs to be done. The move stage can encompass Cantor's model, and Cantor's model is pretty much just says you usually have a lot of buy-in, a lot of motivation, a lot of enthusiasm, excitement at the beginning of a change project, and if things are going well, usually at the end of the change project, you have these high moments, the exciting moments. However, you do get to what he calls despair in the middle of the change process, and that's usually where things begin to stall and people question and things like that. Cantor calls it the miserable middles of change, the miserable middle of change, where things just seem very desperate and enthusiasm is lost and motivation sometimes is lost. So as a change manager, be aware of that. And there can be things done at that stage, um, that can help people kind of get on board again and really get excited again. If employees also with Carlone's model, if employees are happy with the way things are, they don't see a need for change. If they say things are running well, the change manager really must make them unhappy. And that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but if change is necessary and that's the direction the company is going to go, you need to get the current employees out of the mindset that everything's great, everything's running well, nothing can be run any better, we're all happy. You need to kind of paint a new picture for them, and in some ways make them unhappy. We have Cotter's 8-stage model. This is probably the most used, most cited, most widely accepted stage model of change. And the book does a pretty good job of summarizing Cotter's 8-stage model in table 10.5. And again, just like with Lewin's, there's 3 stages. This has 8 stages. going from, establish the need for urgency to forming a powerful group or coalition to guide the change, communicating and developing a vision are steps 3 and 4, which are very important. Empower others, empower the staff to work towards that vision. Plan for and create short-term wins, especially if it's a long-term project. Make sure there's short-term wins and recognitions. Consolidate gains and produce more change. Hire and develop staff who can implement the vision, maintain momentum with new themes, new projects, and change agents, and then embed the change in the culture. Institutionalize these new approaches to change, because that's really an important step in this whole process. And Cotter cautions, don't rush through the stages here. Make sure that you're going through each stage, and each stage is being executed completely, as opposed to rushing through it. Cotter has made some changes in this. He recognizes that these things are what he would call change accelerators. So they're very important to speeding up that change process. He also says they're really concurrent rather than sequential, meaning you don't go from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3. That you can be communicating the vision as you're developing it, or empowering the staff while you're consolidating gains. It's not necessarily sequential, and it does involve everybody in the change process. And it's important to have flexibility within this, like a kind of an agile approach, than just strictly a bureaucratic kind of hierarchy to the change. The flexibility and agile networks, they complement the bureaucracy that we have there in that model. And then the last one we're going to talk about for the stage models is the McKinsey Group's 5A model. And McKinsey's, again, is a big consulting group, and it divides change obviously into 5A, 5 manageable stages. But each one has hard and soft elements. So what do I mean by hard and soft elements? The hard elements are the things like the processes and the actual change, the substance of the change, versus the soft elements, which are more of looking at the individuals within the organization. So when we look at each of these 5 A's, aspire, assess, architect, act, and advance, we need to look at them both from the hard to the soft elements of change. So the 5 guidelines for managing performance, or the hard elements, are aspire, create compelling long-term change visions and aspirations, assess the demand for skills and understand their supply dynamics, and decide how to close those gaps. What's the community that we live in? Does this community have the skills and the knowledge and the abilities that we need? The architect is to find the portfolio of initiatives to reach your strategic objectives. How do you meet your skill requirements? Then sequence your actions and allocate and reallocate resources accordingly. That's the architect part of that. The act is to establish strong governance, decide how to scale your change initiatives. How do you monitor the progress and adjust them throughout the implementation? That's the act. And advance is then how do you institutionalize the processes and expertise so that the organization shares and constantly and continually improves and learns new things as they go along. And again, there we're talking about the heart. We're talking more organizationally than we are individually. If you look at it individually, you want to aspire, check your organization's health, choose where to be exceptional, and target areas that need immediate improvement. assess, pinpoint helping and hindering behaviors for priority health areas, explore the underlying mindset of people, prioritize a critical few from two mindset shifts. So we're talking there about the mindsets of the individuals, that the psychological health of the individuals. We want to do with architect. We want to do role modeling, making sure people have understanding and there's conviction. We want to build confidence of the individuals that they know they have the skills in order to enact this change. And then when we act, we want to mobilize our leaders, our influential leaders, make the change personnel, choose those employees, maintain high impact two-way communication with these employees. That's our act. And our advance is to prioritize roles by the potential to create value, match the most important ones with the best talent, and make that talent match process business as usual. So that's how we want to move forward from that point forward. We want to match people with their skills. We want to make sure that we are kind of institutionalizing those processes to become more business as usual, as opposed to just this one-off and done thing. Some appraisals of the stage models of change. They rarely refer to what came before. If you notice in any of these stages, it never talks about assessing prior change initiatives or anything like that. So, and we know from past lectures that it has an impact. How the company went through change before, what was the change process before, certainly has an influence on what's going to happen in the future. So maybe we should look at the past. And then the timeline going to the past, looking to the future, the timeline should be extended beyond consolidate or institutionalize. And we said that a lot too as we're going along, right? We need to institutionalize these changes from Lewin's to the 5S. We need to institutionalize, freeze these changes, whatever it might be. But it goes beyond that, because over time, change tends to decay. So what do we do to make sure that a year, 3 years, 5 years from now, that these changes have taken hold and they're institutionalized? Also, at the stage model, there really is no clear "this is what to do" statement. It's really guidance as to what needs to be done, as opposed to a checklist of here's what you need to do when. So there's a little bit, I guess, of an art to it, as opposed to maybe more of a science. Okay, so that's our lecture on the stage models of change, and we went from Lewin's to Cotter's, which is a widely used 8-stage model, to McKinsey's 5A model, and then talked a little bit about some of those criticisms. And again, it's important to remember with the stage models that we're talking about processes that unravel over time, and we're not really necessarily looking at a linear checklist, as opposed to the stages that happen with the initiation, the implementation, and the institutionalizing of these change initiatives.